Hello, friends. We are still working on our graphs for math, but they're going to start to look a little different. They're going to start to look like there's more on the graph. So we're going to take a look at something that's in your workbook today, but it's not something you will have to write on unless you want to. You can write on it if you want to. So let's take a look here and see what I'm talking about. It's the page that looks like this. It's got chickens. We have Clucker, and the next one's named Vanilla, and one named Daisy. And then we look at the top of that graph, and the graph has a title: Eggs Laid This Month. And now you can see our graph is different because there are 3 rows of information. When before, we only had 2 rows. So we're going to look at this graph and see what we can tell just by looking at it. I like to use my hand to help me. I can see that all 3 of the chickens laid the same amount of eggs right to here. But now what I can see is that Vanilla, the one in the middle, goes all the way to the end, and she laid the most. So what I'm going to do to help me out is next to Clucker, I see that he laid 4. I counted them. And Vanilla laid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that Daisy laid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I can look at that graph and I can see 4, 9, and 7. And I can look at that and go, oh, Vanilla 9, that's the most. So I could write at the bottom, Vanilla laid the most. And I'm going to circle that 9 because that is the highest number. She laid the most amount of eggs. Now, the next graph has even more information. There are 4 rows. We have frogs, animals in the pond is the title of this graph, frogs, fish, ducks, and turtles. And I kind of like to use my hand to help me out. And I can see right to here, they're the same, but after that, I can see that the fish goes all the way to the end. That one is the most this time. So I'm going to go ahead and count. Frogs, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 frogs. Fish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ducks, 1, 2, 3, 4 only. And turtles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's interesting. I see 6 here and 6 there. Do you remember that special word in math when something is the same? What means the same as? Yeah, that word was equal. So for this one, we're going to say what we noticed is that frogs and turtles are equal. Frogs and turtles are equal. Okay, they both have 6. That means they are the same. Now we're going to look at the bottom one. Now this graph has 3 again, so not as much information as the one about the animals in the pond, but this one is about hot dogs sold at the fair. So Eric sold some hot dogs, Miranda did, and Adam did. And I'm going to look and kind of notice and use my hand right to here. They're the same, but I can tell that Eric's went all the way to the end. I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hot dogs for Eric. For Miranda, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for Adam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to use a new word to describe something in this graph. I want to notice, and I want you guys to see, Which person sold the least? Okay, before we were using the word fewer, and that kind of means the same thing. We said the most up here about this graph. This graph here, we said too that we're equal. When I talk about the least, that word least means the smallest amount. Okay, so not as many as the other kids. When I look, I can see Adam only goes to here, and I can check 5 is less than 6 and less than 8. So for this graph, I'm going to write Adam sold the least. So every time we look at a graph, we might be looking for different information. So we might be looking for most, we might be looking for equal, and we might be looking for least. So we're looking for different things when we do graphs. Now, your job today is a seesaw activity that looks like this. There is pieces of cheese eaten this week and has mice. So Minnie the mouse, she ate this many pieces of cheese, and Gordy ate this many, and Stuart ate this many. It would help you if you wrote the number next to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and write that here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Gordy, and write it here. Stuart, 1, 2. And then you can come down and answer your questions. Which mouse ate the fewest pieces of cheese? You know what? Fewest means the same as fewer, and that also means the same as least. Who did not eat very many? So then you would write in Stuart. His name would go right here for that answer. Which mouse ate 7 pieces of cheese? Well, now you can look right up here and then write Gordy's name. How many more pieces of cheese did Gordy eat than Stuart? Ooh, this is where you really got to do some thinking and looking, and maybe an equation that would help you. So we are looking at Gordy and we're looking at Stuart. How many more did Gordy eat than Stuart? Well, we could do this. Match them up because they're right next to each other on this graph, and then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could do it that way. Or we could do it this way. 7 minus 2. That's another way to find out that answer. Okay, so you've got questions to finish and questions to do on your own about pumpkins sold at the farm. And like I said, this is a seesaw activity, and you're going to be working on that today for your math. The other part in your workbook, you can write that, like I said, if you want to. Who laid the most, which ones were equal, who sold the least amount of hot dogs, and write the numbers next. This is just kind of a practice. You don't have to, but the seesaw activity, yes, you have to do that today for your math.